Have you ever been trapped in an endless cycle of relationship frustration, desperately wanting your partner to change so you can finally be happy? I know that feeling all too well. For years, I was trapped in that exact pattern, emotionally dependent, internally unstable, and therefore thrown off balance by my partner's challenging moods and behavior. What if I told you that the level of the problem is never an issue, but the issue is always the level of your own character? Here's the truth most relationship advice won't tell you. The solution isn't about trying to change your partner's natural being, your partner's natural behavior. It's not about finding the perfect relationship strategy or communication technique. It's not about any technique or strategy. The real transformation happens when you stop trying to change what's outside of you, the superficial content, and start mastering what's on the inside, your structure of self. The treasure of relationship fulfillment is found by entering the cave you've been afraid to enter and explore, the depths of your own perception and capacity to give love. This is about love, not the conditional kind that most of us have been taught, but unconditional love. This kind of love doesn't depend on your partners or your external world's occurrences, behaviors, moods, actions, etc. I'm going to show you why your relationship struggles aren't about what's happening on the outside, but what's happening on your inside. And how making this one crucial shift can bring the harmony, peace, and deep connection you've been searching for. What I'm about to share with you today transformed not just my relationships, but my entire experience of life. The truth is that love isn't something you get or take, it's something you give. And when you learn to give it unconditionally, you unlock a level of freedom and fulfillment that most people never experience. Four years ago, my relationship back then was spiraling downward. I constantly found myself caught in a web of inner instability and insecurity. I was constantly yearning for a future where my partner's challenging moods, emotional shifts, and challenging behaviors would simply disappear. Like many men, I was drawn to the depth and richness of feminine energy, but that same fluidity and unpredictability became a source of confusion and turmoil for me. Why? My inner insecurity and instability created an emotional dependence. This made me look for validation, a sense of security, and reassurance from my external world, particularly in the context of my relationship from my partner. This void inside of me made me resist reality and wanting to forcefully change things if uncomfortable to me in order to get what I want, comfort. I had no capacity to embrace what reality gave to me, no matter how it made me feel. When my partner couldn't fulfill this impossible role, when her natural emotional shifts didn't provide me with the constant validation and comfort I craved, I would spiral into reactivity. operating from a place of fear, negative energy, and perceived scarcity, false assumptions about her intentions that self-deceived me. This in turn caused me to act against my better judgment because I wanted validation from her at any cost, to feel secure and comfortable. The pressure I placed on her was immense. I became fixated on changing her behavior, demanding she would suppress her natural emotional fluidity to accommodate my fragile internal state. My confrontations most of the time weren't about addressing real issues. They were desperate attempts to control the uncontrollable, another person's authentic emotional expressions. Because I had this void inside of me that demanded external filling, I wanted to control the parts of reality outside of my responsibility and control. I resisted everything that reality gave to me that made me feel uncomfortable and tried to forcefully change it instead of embracing it. This cycle became automatic. My inner insecurity created emotional dependence, which drove my attachment to external validation. When that validation wasn't forthcoming, I acted from fear and lack, based on assumptions and false beliefs, putting pressure on my partner to change and confronting her when she couldn't or wouldn't conform to my needs. When faced with her shifting moods and emotions, I felt overwhelmed by insecurity. I was disoriented and completely ill equipped to navigate the waters of her psyche. When she was stressed, instead of providing my calm presence, I would get triggered by her emotions. Instead of offering the inner stability and peace she needed, I would fall into negative assumptions that turned into self-deceptions. I was blind to my own self-deceptions. I let my negative feelings of fear and lack influence my behavior, choosing to withdraw my love and emotionally isolating myself whenever she did something I wasn't capable of handling emotionally. I forgot about my intentions that I had for our relationship: harmony, fulfillment, growth, and understanding. They were all obscured by the intensity of my negative emotions. I knew that my behavior was destructive, but I couldn't act differently. I felt powerless, unsure of how to act, respond, and support her effectively. I wanted to, but I couldn't, just couldn't most of the time. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed yourself pulling away emotionally when you find yourself in a difficult moment with your partner? Drawing away your love and affection just when they might need it the most? Pulling away your stable and calm presence when they would need it the most? I wasn't giving my love unconditionally. I was giving it conditionally, only when it was comfortable for me to do so. My mind was fooling me. I saw reality through a lens that made me suffer. I didn't realize that love, unconditional love, is our compass pointing us towards our true north amidst all the chaos. I was either not unconditionally using my compass or I was sabotaging it. I desperately hoped we could finally find the peace, connection, and affection. I desperately hoped we could finally find the peace, deep connection, and harmony and security I craved. But I was looking for these things in the wrong place. I was trying to change her instead of changing myself. I struggled to detach my thinking from my emotional dependency on her emotions. This was hindering my ability to love and embrace her unconditionally. In my attempts to cope, I either passively allowed the situation to unfold over me, or confronted my partner, or I tried to forcefully change her behavior. But these actions only resulted in increased frustration and tension, deepening the divide and disconnect between us. I was waiting for tomorrow's happiness while sabotaging today's possibilities for joy and appreciation. Now that you understand my struggle, let's look what was actually happening beneath the surface. There was a hidden cycle at work. What I didn't realize then was that I was unconsciously creating the very reality I complained about. Through the interplay of my inner instability and insecurity, I was seeing my relationship through a lens of fear and scarcity. This distorted perception made me dependent on external validation, particularly from my partner. When she couldn't or wouldn't provide this constant reassurance and validation I craved, I reacted destructively based on false assumptions and misinterpretations of her behaviors and intentions. The painful irony, these reactions only pushed her away and creating the exact relationship dynamics I was afraid of. My fear of disconnection was creating disconnection. My destructive demand for stability was creating instability. The lower self is blind to its own creative power. It becomes both architect and prisoner of its circumstances, first constructing a limited reality through narrow perception, then reacting to the self-generated illusion as if it were an immutable external truth. In this unconscious cycle, I was creating the very chains I complained against, perpetually casting myself as a victim and plaything of my circumstances and conditions I unknowingly authored, and mistaking my programmed reactive responses for choice. I was trapped in a self-perpetuating cycle of my own creation. What if the relationship problems you're experiencing aren't happening to you, but rather happening through you? What if you're unconsciously creating the very reality you're complaining about? The highest wisdom consists in distinguishing the permanent from the impermanent. Julius Evola. Without knowing this exact quote, I was sensing this truth back then, but I couldn't translate this knowing into living and doing. I wasn't able to endure impermanent discomfort through being a stable pole of calm and thus receiving delayed gratification. I wanted to permanently feel comfortable, constantly seeking confirmation from my partner that everything was okay. I was dependent on this confirmation, and I followed every urge and impulse of fear and perceived scarcity based on false assumptions and beliefs in seeking this reassurance. Although I knew this would only end in destructive outcomes, because I wanted it at any cost. I was acting against my better judgment. My instinct knew that I just had to endure these feelings of discomfort and uncertainty, that this was just a test. But I couldn't embrace this reality. My will was too weak. Assumptions and false interpretations of my partner's behaviors and her intentions became a reality because they justified my need for immediate comfort over lasting growth. The true wisdom in distinguishing what's permanent and what's temporary means having the strength and courage to act on that knowledge, to endure discomfort and uncertainty when every urge and impulse in your mind is screaming for immediate comfort. This creates balance. It realigns you with your higher self's path. This was the missing piece I had to develop before transformation became possible. So, how did I break free from this destructive pattern? It required a complete shift in how I viewed my relationship and reality itself. How did I go from that relationship to now living in one full of harmony, deep connection, understanding, and affection? It wasn't that I found someone easier to love. The change happened within me. Waiting for external change is an illusion. I had to change my entire paradigm, the lens through which I saw my reality, my partner, my relationship. The ancient philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not things that upset us, it's our judgment about things." This insight was the beginning of my transformation. Reality is inherently perfect. It's only you who is creating imperfection through the judgment of things. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. This is a quote by Marcus Aurelius. Every problem you perceive is self-generated, rooted in your perspective and beliefs. When you view reality through a lens that looks for the cause of circumstances in the external world, you render yourself a victim of your circumstances. As Seneca said wisely, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. That's exactly what I was doing. Through my attachment on to external validation, I made myself a plaything of my partner's moods and behavior, and it was destroying my relationship and my inner peace. My emotional reactivity reflected a deeper pattern of attachment that works both ways in relationships. While emotional attachment can motivate deep commitment and investment into something, for example, your partner's well being, even this positive attachment must be approached with awareness. I wasn't able to detach from my negative energy because I was emotionally dependent on my partner, and therefore looked for every sign that I could negatively interpret. My attachment clouded the objective assessment of my experienced reality. Let me share something powerful with you. Your energy will always follow your focus. What you focus on will therefore grow. You are a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're either on an upward spiral or downward spiral. Your pain and suffering, seemingly caused by external things, stem from beliefs and paradigms within you, from how you see the world, how you perceive it, making them not external but internal challenges. Think of it like this: you're not seeing reality as it is, you're seeing reality as you are. You're not seeing reality, you're seeing a projection created by your own structure of self. This brings me back to the topic of my last video titled You Are Stagnant. Go watch it if you haven't already seen it, in order to understand how you perceive, interpret, and respond to things in your reality. There are two levels operating in every situation or system you encounter, thus also your relationship. First, there is content. This is what literally happens between you and your partner. The experienced emotions, your behaviors in certain situations, for example, your reactions, your exchanged words and arguments, etc., etc. This is what our lower self focuses on. These are the things that easily trigger and attack our lower self's ego-attached nature. Second, there is structure, the invisible framework of your own identity and self that determines how you perceive, respond, how you perceive, interpret, and respond to everything you perceive and to everything that happens in your life. The higher self focuses on understanding the structure of things, which requires an open mind and the ability to embrace and understand things even when uncomfortable or challenging to your existing identity and its beliefs and your sense of self. This is why all my previous attempts to fix our relationship failed. I was trying to change surface level behaviors, both hers and mine, without addressing the flawed structure of my own identity and self that was creating my distorted perception, and thus all the chaos I experienced. My partner's emotions were never the problem. My reactive structure of self was. When I transformed my underlying structure, not just my behaviors, I finally became the rock in the surf I needed to be, instead of being tossed around by my own fears, negative emotions, and external events. When I operated from my lower self back then, I fixated solely on the content of our relationship, what she said, how she acted, the emotions she expressed, and how I perceived them, and what they then made me feel. I didn't ask myself, why do I feel this way? Understand, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. You have to be worthy of the things you desire. You have to be equal in the quality of your own thinking, decisions, and actions to the things you want. Your perception is shaped by your internal landscape, your fears, your expectations, your goals and beliefs, and your past experiences. Once I understood this framework, I needed practical tools to put this wisdom into action. Here's how you can embrace reality instead of fighting against it. No matter what happens, it is absolute perfection. Your duty is to embrace what you cannot control and to take responsibility for the things that are under your control. Your duty is to create balance, True, honest goodness and love are the source of all balance in the universe, and they have no reason behind them. True goodness and love are unconditional, which in the first place makes them able to create balance. Reality's perfection, which embodies absolute balance, exists independently to your subjective notion of perfection, a notion shaped by your biases, beliefs that are formed through your identity. True balance comes from embracing reality exactly as it is, accepting everything beyond your control. This acceptance creates clarity, allowing you to focus solely on what is within your control and responsibility. Giving love, being a sovereign creator. When you resist this truth, you ultimately harm yourself, acting from selfishness, attempting to change what lies outside of your control simply because it makes you feel uncomfortable. Selfishness is its own punishment, and selflessness is its own reward. By being selfish, you cut yourself off from the love of God or the universe, however you want to call it. Not because God is withholding love from you, but because love is selflessness. It's a quote from Leo Gura from actualize.org. When you resist reality through selfishness, you create your own suffering by disconnecting from the universal flow of love. Conversely, when you embrace reality through selflessness, through unconditional love and acceptance, you align yourself with the very nature of existence itself. Your problems and challenges, the uncomfortable and difficult aspects of your life, only become truly detrimental when you label them as bad through your judgment, rather than seeing them as integral parts of a greater whole, as the inevitable balance between ease and difficulty. You create your own suffering through resistance. Without diligence, no reward. In the end, there is no way around your challenges and the things you fear and hide away from if you don't want to stay the same forever, if you don't want to stay the version that you are right now, if you want to develop yourself. Judging circumstances and becoming upset about them creates no positive change. It creates no positive energy through which change can happen. It only makes acceptance of things more difficult. Judgment keeps you stuck in a loop where you focus your efforts on things that are not under your control instead of focusing on the things that are under your control. This resistance ultimately hinders your ability to embrace reality as it is and offer the best that you can give to the world, the excellence and unconditional love that reality calls forth from you. To love only what happens, no greater harmony. Another quote by Marcus Aurelius. When you feel that something external should be different, that is not under your direct control and outside of your responsibility, remember, reality is inherently perfect. Instead of resisting, ask yourself these powerful questions. What am I overlooking? Where must I evolve to cease perceiving a problem? How and why do I distort the existing perfection into imperfection in my mind? Which ability of mine, thus, this situation challenge. What do I want to embody? Who do I want to be in this moment right now? What does it need to be this version of myself in this moment? Perhaps the flaw lies in your perspective towards this situation or person. Stay indifferent in the face of the negative, but show appreciation and gratitude for the positive. This is the compass for life that lets your love flow freely, independently, and with sovereignty. You're not a reactionary plaything of your circumstances, but a creator from within, from your heart, that is fueled by even the most smallest positive things, and therefore wants to give unconditionally. You are responsible for everything in your life, and if not, you are responsible for how you deal with it. This brings us to perhaps the most counterintuitive truth I discovered about relationships, the great paradox of love. The greatest paradox I discovered about love is this: the moment you stop trying to get it is the moment you truly experience it. Love the hand fate deals you and play it as your own. Another quote by Marcus Aurelius. You need to let go. Whenever you want something at any cost, you will act in a way where you betray yourself, your values, who you want to be, sooner or later in order to get what you want. This attachment will make you suffer and create destructive outcomes that push your partner away. When I was desperately seeking the feeling of love, validation, and security from my partner, I was actually blocking my ability to feel the very things I've craved. I saw reality through a perspective that searched for confirmation of its own negative beliefs, not for insights and positive possibilities. I searched for flaws and negative signs which made me interpret reality in a destructive way that formed false assumptions. In this way, I created the very reality I was fearing. Let me explain this seeming contradiction. True love exists only in giving, not in getting and taking. I tried to extract as much as possible in order to feel comfortable. The higher self maintains a paradoxical stance, deeply and unconditionally loving and giving and committed to life. Thus, also in a relationship, while simultaneously capable of detached observation of its patterns and dynamics. This balance allows you to love fully without being swept away by emotional reactions or becoming dependent on external validation. When you give your love unconditionally without expecting anything in return, when you pour yourself out without demanding anything back, something miraculous happens. You discover that the love you've been seeking has been within you all along. You realize that in the act of giving love unconditionally, you simultaneously experience it fully. The secret to experiencing fulfilling love isn't just found in what your partner does for you, it's found in what you can freely give without any condition. The moment you let go of needing anything back in return is the moment you finally experience the love you've been seeking. This is why all my attempts to find fulfillment through getting my partner to change, to give me what I needed, failed completely. I was looking outside for what could only be found within the act of giving unconditionally. Think of love like breathing. When you truly hold your breath to keep love for yourself, you suffocate. But when you freely exhale, giving your love without reservation, you naturally create space to receive a fresh breath in return. This doesn't mean you become a doormat or tolerate disrespect. Rather, it means you're giving flows from abundance rather than scarcity, from choice rather than need. Conditional giving says, I love you when you make me feel secure. Unconditional giving says, I'll choose to love you regardless of how I feel. Conditional giving says, I'll support you when you've earned it. Unconditional giving says, I'll support you because that's who I am. Conditional giving says, I'll be present when you're pleasant to be around. Unconditional giving says, I'll be present especially when things are difficult. You see how fundamentally different these approaches are. One keeps you trapped in dependency and fear. The other liberates you to love freely from your own abundance. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. When your partner says something that triggers you, that makes you feel uncomfortable in any way, the higher self recognizes that this statement reflects your partner's current emotional experience. It understands that this is about more than just the literal words, the statement or complaint. The higher self sees how this connects to a deeper relationship pattern around contribution and appreciation. It responds to the underlying need rather than just reacting defensively to the words. This response comes from a place of unconditional giving rather than defensive self-protection and fear-driven reactive behavior. Now let's get clear about an important distinction that most relationship advice misses completely. True love is always unconditional, but your relationship is conditional. Let's visualize how your relationship exists within this framework. You can take it, accept it, and embrace it as it is, and everything that occurs within it. And you can change yourself and your perspective towards things and your partner. Or, second option, you can leave it. True love is inherently independent and unconditional. Your relationship, however, is conditional and bound to frameworks and rules. The only legitimate boundary is where your partner disrespectfully, knowingly and intentionally puts the relationship at risk. That's where you should choose to leave. But even then, your love has to be a rock in the surf and not be disturbed by external events. Unless you're in this extreme situation, leaving would say 1,000 words about your capacity to give love, your willingness to understand and grow, and your ability to embrace not only what is comfortable to you. It's impossible to forcefully change another human for good. And it's a mistake to wait for your partner to transform. This resistance to structural change often manifests as clinging to assumptions rather than seeking new insights and understanding. Narrow-minded beliefs about what your relationship should be and your partner's intentions, formed through misinterpreting reality and forming false assumptions, become fixed lenses through which all interactions are filtered. When you release these fixed expectations and open yourself to seeing your partner as they truly are, transformation becomes possible. You have one option: changing yourself and embracing reality. You can change the way you perceive things. Change yourself, and your partner will most likely follow your way. Understanding these principles is one thing. Putting them into practice requires something more fundamental. So, what does this look like in practice? Embrace her wholeheartedly. Embrace your partner's little quirks, all of them, and the things that annoy you. Love those aspects intentionally and unconditionally. Think about it like this: accept that there are more aspects to a person than just the pretty, beautiful, and sweet ones. If you want your partner in your life for all her wonderful characteristics, all her wonderful sides, then also accept and embrace all the ones that present challenges to you. Take responsibility. The moments in which you are emotionally challenged really define who you are at your core and what you are standing for. Your relationship and life in general isn't about ever present and absolute perfection, ever present comfort. It's about growing in your capacity to give, to create, to love, to understand, and to embrace reality as it is. This opens up possibilities for endless mutual growth and connection. It's all about perspective. Holding a holistic perspective on your reality creates balance because it transcends a dissected and narrowed perception of your reality that tends to create conflict. Balance implies regulation. Self-regulation is expressed in indifference to negative external events, not in the sense of not caring, but in not being internally disturbed by them. This is the foundation of being a rock in the surf, a reliable pole of calm for your partner. The quality of your life is determined by how well you manage your inner reality, your self-structure, the software of your mind, your paradigm formed through your past experiences and conditioning, beliefs and assumptions, emotions and goals. The quality of your internal structure determines what you perceive and how and why you perceive it in the first place, how you interpret it, and how you respond. When you transform that structure, everything else transforms with it. Your reality changes. Success in every domain of your life needs frameworks that guide you on your path. Those frameworks are self-imposed boundaries and limitations that you strive to being strictly loyal to. You can only say yes to something, to your goals, if you say no to all the things that bring you off track on the path of living, striving, and achieving your goals. Your path to success in every domain of your life is determined by how much you're able to self-regulate yourself, managing your inner reality. Self-regulation is the tool that realigns you with your true innermost intention and purpose on your path to your goals. Through observation and self-assessment, you gain consciousness over the aspects of your own being, thinking, and doing that do not serve you on your path to your goals, so to speak, your lower self. Self-regulation is the embracement of your reality, the acceptance of what is given to you. By choosing to embrace what is out of your control, you get some kind of psychological control in your mind over it. It gives you clarity to act on the things within your control and responsibility instead of reacting to things outside of your control. Non-reactionary questioning forces you to face the reality of any situation. Observation and questioning is the antidote to being lost in your own mind and thus reality. If you change your perception, the world is likely to follow suit and reward you. Self-regulation is lived maturity. Maturity in a relationship is when you catch your mind as it is creating a false story about your partner, which is based on inner tension that is unrelated to them. Ask yourself, why do I have these negative thoughts, assumptions, and emotions about, for example, my partner, although they're not grounded in reality? Manage your reactions, but do not suppress your emotions. Emotional maturity is not about being above your emotions or negating them. It's about being able to sit with the rawness of every feeling without letting it take over your mind and actions, because that means growth. It's about being a rock in the surf, not wanting to change the waves, but understanding the tide. Winners in any domain of life are not defined by never getting off track, but by how fast they get back on it when they get off. Reality consists of ups and downs, and consistency always wins over perfection. But how much you can self-regulate determines your ability to live your highest self, your highest potential, and to give your love and everything that you have to give unconditionally and independently. As Julius Evola expressed it, detachment means a state in which oneself is not involved, not implicated, not engaged, but stands above, free and sovereign. This detachment doesn't mean emotional coldness. It means maintaining your inner stability regardless of external circumstances. It's what allows you to be a rock in the surf for your partner and to give her your love unconditionally. External circumstances aren't obstacles, they're guides, aiding your journey to higher levels of consciousness. Adversity serves as a catalyst for uncovering your greatest strengths and gifts. When faced with an uncomfortable, challenging moment, ask yourself, how am I viewing and perceiving this present moment, this person? Am I challenging myself in understanding and embracing the present moment, this present situation? Do I explore all its possibilities? Am I grappling with its complexities? Am I unconditionally offering my unique gifts to my partner and the world, despite all adversities? everything you perceive, experience, and what happens to you serves as a test, a challenge for your ability and capacity to deal with the adversities of life. The same applies to your relationship. Every challenge, every conflict, every disagreement or discord challenges you, regardless of reality and your own emotions, to reach your full potential and to live and love unconditionally. This journey ultimately leads to the most important question: who are you becoming through this relationship you're in? It's your duty to be a rock in the surf for your partner, a reliable pole of calm, harmony, peace. Emotionally independent, you should strive to be undisturbed by anything negative, external or internal, infinitely giving unconditional love and your greatest gifts. Imagine yourself as that immovable rock while the waves are crashing against you. The waves aren't trying to harm you. That's just what waves do. Embrace them as they are. Your partner's emotions aren't directed at you personally. They're simply the natural feminine energy, the expression of natural emotions. A future where everything is different and better will never materialize if you don't fully embrace the present reality and consistently strive to constantly embody the energy of your highest self. The grass is nowhere greener. Ask yourself, what does my higher self look like? How does it think, decide, and act? How can I create balance? What requires harmonization in my thoughts, decisions, and actions in order to create balance? Which parts of my reality do I not understand fully, yet which in turn drives me to make false assumptions that create negative beliefs about, for example, my partner, which in turn leads to destructive behaviors? What am I really capable of? Where do I lack courage and therefore act out of lack and fear? Which values and principles do I want to embody? Where do I need to gain agency and sovereignty over my perception in order to understand both the content, what happens, and the structure, why and how it happens, of my experienced reality? Where do I have to take full responsibility, overcome blaming others for problems, but instead focus on my own contribution and responses, the parameters within my control? When and where do I tend to justify behaviors that aren't aligned with my higher self? What would happen if I questioned negative assumptions in certain situations instead of accepting them as truth? How do these assumptions influence my behavior and thinking and turn into negative and destructive reactions? Ask yourself these questions. Your highest self, your greatest potential, is not a goal. It is a continuous process. It is a lifestyle. The path is the destination. It is about constantly striving and constantly asking yourself, how can I act out of inner abundance in this moment while facing this challenge. This is the ultimate promise of transcendence, not just transformation within your relationship, but a fundamental shift in how you perceive and engage with reality itself. As Epictetus said, welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace. Therefore, love your partner and the world today. Give her and the world today the most valuable thing you can give to them, despite all chaos and adversities. Then you're going to succeed. Every wasted moment in which you don't realize your highest potential clouds the clarity of your meaning in life. Society has trained you to be judgmental, to pick and choose, and to only like 1% of the whole spectrum of life and its experiences. This is not a holistic way of perceiving and experiencing things and life in general. One of the meanings in life is to constantly increase your capacity to love, to give, to create. To truly love means to embrace the full spectrum of experiences and at the same time give your deepest and most valuable gifts. Not just accept the good experiences, the sweet and pleasant ones, but everything. Embracing reality no matter what, while giving your deepest gifts, while creating, while loving, is the most important skill to navigate life and its chaos. This is a holistic life. Truth is holistic. Reality is the full spectrum of experiences. Therefore, embracing reality and all experiences with love is the ultimate truth. Whatever it takes you to surrender in order to see the beauty in the things beyond your control, in the most challenging and hardest aspects of your life. That's your work that you have to do. That's your purpose. This will pave the way for understanding things unknown to you, challenging and uncomfortable to you. And this, in turn, means growth. This requires surrendering your ego, as it tends to cherry pick and corrupt everything it encounters. Think beyond your feelings and emotions in order to make lasting change. If we try to get to the truth, if we really try to understand reality at a big picture level, that means that we have to contend with the biggest obstacle, which is self-deception. Because self-deception leads to delusion and falsehood. Beliefs created through assumptions anchor us in place. Their nature is inherently static. A belief by itself contains no innate capacity for evolution and understanding. At best, it merely points into a direction. We become attached to our beliefs. It's impossible to simultaneously hold a rigid belief about something or someone while letting it go and being open-minded. In contrast, insights build upon one another, guiding us along an endless path of deepening understanding and continuous growth. To overcome self-deception, you must be willing to release your stagnant beliefs about your partner, your relationship, or any other thing, and remain open to new insights that may challenge your existing perspective. Constantly raise your capacity to love unconditionally, to love everything and everyone despite adversities. True love transcends dependence on others or other things and their behavior and emotions. But true love also transcends your own ego-driven emotions. It's about giving without expecting anything in return, without needing anything in return. Love is your own fight against the darkness within yourself in the form of giving light to others and to yourself. Transitioning from resistance to acceptance lies at the heart of embracing reality and life's chaos and adversities. This shift in perspective applies to various aspects of our lives: pursuing passions, nurturing relationships, or simply finding moments of tranquility. It's a reminder to not delay happiness and fulfillment in the anticipation of an uncertain future. The fairy tale of someday only serves to delay the fulfillment that awaits you in the here and now, right now in this moment. When faced with frustration and dissatisfaction in your relationship, choose love and embrace over resistance. Rather than attempting to change your partner, express your affection and appreciation for who she is as a whole. Embrace the emotional waves of the feminine ocean with affection and compassion, knowing that true love transcends all imperfections. Genuine transformation comes from acceptance rather than coercion. Instead of compulsively and futilely trying to control external circumstances, we learn to surrender to the flow of life and trust in its inherent wisdom and our unconditional love. Giving unconditional love isn't about accepting the content of your relationship and your partner's perceived flaws. It is about transcending these limitations of your own structural framework to see reality as it truly is, perfect and complete, even in its apparent chaos. This doesn't mean passively resigning ourselves to fate, but rather cultivating a sense of inner trust in the things within our own responsibility and control, and resilience that allows us to navigate life's challenges with greater ease and grace. By cultivating a mindset of unconditional love, abundance, and acceptance, you unlock the true beauty and meaning of existence, fulfilling your highest potential and contributing to the collective evolution of consciousness. The choice is yours. Will you continue trying to change what you cannot change? Or will you embrace your reality as it is and discover the freedom that comes from giving your deepest gifts? Start today. Start now. The relationship, the life you've always wanted isn't waiting for you in some distant future. It's waiting for you to change how you perceive the present moment, how you engage with your reality, and how you then act on it. I'm Leonard. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you could find value in my words and thoughts and ideas. I hope it sparked some inspiration in you, and I highly appreciate it. If this message resonated with you or challenged you, please share your thoughts, insights, and ideas in the comments down below. This will massively help spreading the message. Share this video with someone you think who could profit of it, and give it a like. Thank you. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on conscious relationships, personal growth, and truth seeking. Until next time, remember, love isn't conditional. Life isn't conditional. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. A quote by Marcus Aurelius. It's your ability to love unconditionally that makes you overcome any difficulties in life. Unconditional love is the only condition. Until then.